to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? The teller checking in. We're going to be recapping UFC Vegas 55. We're going to exclusively be talking about the decision that was made in the main event. A lot of you guys have been talking about the controversial split decision victory for Ketlen Vieira. I've seen a lot of people upset. Saw a lot of people burning their bet stubs and really looking to burn the house down with it. We're going to be talking about the decision that was made and what my thoughts were upon that. We're going to kick things off with that. I also, of course, want to talk about how we went 3 for 3 with our official plays, the clean sweep, just about 9 units of profit on the card. I felt really comfortable going into this fight card. And of course, I felt great for the way things turned out. Besides that, yes, I know my Florida Panthers were swept by the Tampa Bay Lightning, losing in the playoffs once again to the Lightning back-to-back years. And it is what it is. I still rep my team. And quick note or quick message for you guys. Make sure that you guys always stick with your teams through thick and thin. Don't ever be one of those fugazi type of guys that just jump on the bandwagon and become fans of the top team at the time. Don't ever be one of those types of dudes, because those are the worst kind of sports fans. All right. So still repping my Florida Panthers to the end there. So, all right. So the Holm decision, there's some things I want to talk about in regards to this fight. I want to talk about my thoughts on a fight like this, because I've seen a lot of you guys, especially on Instagram up in the comment section, talking about this fight as if it's black and white, and I don't really think that's the case. A lot of you guys want to say, significant damage just trumps all, and I know there's talks about that being, in the books now. I mean, that's the official word that official damage does carry the most weight. I understand that, but you can't just say it's that simple, right? Fighting, especially in the sport of MMA, fighting is such a complex game, and people like to underestimate and undervalue what we're watching. It's an extremely complex sport. There's so many little minute details that go into a fight and who actually won that fight. And there's going to be certain fights that are very, very close. And that's why we're going to be in these types of situations where you see a lot of people saying one thing and a lot of people saying another. I've seen more people definitely agreeing that Holm won this fight. Does it have to do with the fact she has the bigger name? A lot of people had action on her, because bet your boots, a lot of people were mixing her up in parlays. Those are things you also want to take into consideration. Anyone that's betting on Ketlen Vieira, which there wasn't a lot of them out there, of course, they're going to back Ketlen Vieira. Ketlen Vieira landing the more significant strikes in this fight, without a doubt. She was the fighter landing those big impact type shots. We saw what she did to Holm's face. She was bruised up, bloodied up. Ketlen Vieira almost finishes the fight in the second round with the submission choke there. Obviously, she won the second round. We'll get into the round by round basis too as well. Holm, in my opinion, being the more aggressive fighter, going forward more so, using the clinch a lot, holding Ketlen Vieira up against the cage, throwing little rabid knees and whatnot, throwing the side kick, and just having that aggressive demeanor. We saw Ketlen Vieira on the back foot quite a bit. Those are all things you have to take into consideration when you're analyzing the fight. As far as total strikes landed in this fight, Holm lands 263 significant strikes, or total strikes, to Ketlen Vieira's 190 total strikes. From a significant strike standpoint, Holm outlands Ketlen Vieira 157 to 151. So still landing 6 more significant strikes. As far as the takedowns go, 0 for 6 for Holly, 1 of 7 for Ketlen Vieira. Again, though, without a doubt, Ketlen Vieira was landing these shots that were rocking Holm, bobbing her head back and forth, and Holm, again, just constantly going forward. So that was really the theme of the fight. When it came down to the official decision, it really came down to the third round, right? When you looked at the judges' scorecards, everybody had Holm winning that first round. The second round, everybody had Ketlen Vieira winning the second round. Obviously, she almost finished the fight. The third round is where we saw a little bit of discrepancy between the judges. Mike Bell did have it for Ketlen Vieira. Derek Clearly had the fight for Ketlen Vieira, and Sal D'Amato, of course, who gave the fight to Holm, had that third round for Holm. The fourth round was all given to Ketlen Vieira, and then the fifth round was all given to Holm. It was that third round. I'll tell you guys this: when I was watching the fight, just kind of relaxing on the couch. Now remember, no official action on this fight. It was just chilling, watching the fight. I already cashed my plays. I thought that Holly Holm kind of won that third round. I was looking at the live line. It was just about even going in to the fourth round there. And I said, I think Holly probably won rounds 1 and 3, although the third round was close. So that was just my natural reaction to it. I thought, Holly Holm having the big name and just being a little bit more aggressive, I thought that the judges would have steered that way, if I was being honest. So, when this fight was all said and done, I thought Holly Holm was going to get the nod, and of course she did not. But I was by no means shocked, and I felt that Ketlen Vieira was just as much deserving to win the fight as Holly Holm. So some of you guys are going to be a little upset with me there. But if I'm being honest, that's kind of what I thought. I thought it could have went either way. But again, I thought Holly Holm maybe should have got the nod and thought she would have got the nod. So yeah, I feel for you guys that lost on that. What else can we talk about in regards to that fight? I mean, in the third round, believe it or not, at distance, it was 13-13. Both fighters landing the same amount of shots from the outside, whereas in the clinch, they gave 10 strikes to Ketlen Vieira to Holly Holm's 5. But again, just remember that Holly Holm ended that third round pushing Ketlen Vieira against the cage, and kind of those last couple seconds, she was holding her there, throwing some knees, and sometimes, that last seconds of the round, the way the round ends, does carry a little bit more merit, you would think sometimes. So that was really who was going to win the fight, whoever the judges gave that round there. So we jumped to that main event, and that's how I had the main event going. Again, I really feel it was a lot more close than a lot of you guys are giving it credit to be. And real quick, back to the significant damage trumps all statement. I want to say this about that, because I don't think that's an elaborate or detailed enough statement to describe what these fights really consist of. I want to pull up a fight that just happened not too long ago. I'm going to kind of alter what happened, but just stick with me here. Marlon Chito Vera and Rob Font. Okay, in that fight, if you guys remember, Rob Font was going out there and really putting on a masterclass towards the first 4 minutes of multiple rounds, just breaking records with the significant strikes he was landing, just going out there. He was on his horse. He was working. I really loved the job he was doing. Now, if you remember, there was multiple rounds that he was hurt very bad at the end of those rounds and almost finished. And I'm not arguing that he should have won those rounds. He should have lost those rounds based on how badly he was hurt by Marlon Chito Vera. But let's just say Marlon hurt him just slightly less with those shots he was landing at the end of the round. Let's say, just use your imagination. Let's say that Rob Font was just a little bit less hurt and didn't get dropped as bad and almost finished, but kind of clinched on and held on. You're going to get to a gray line where you have to understand that Rob Font just put in all that work for all that time. And then, Marlon Vera landed some big, heavy shots. But again, not to the extent that he did, because he did land some big damage where he deserved to take those rounds. But let's just tone that back a little bit, what he did. And then what happens then? Is it just significant damage trumps all? Because I'm still saying he landed some significant damage, let's say hypothetically, but not as bad. You're gonna skew it eventually to, you're gonna get to this point in line. Like I said, you're gonna have a gray line, and you're gonna get to a spot where you're at a fence, and you got to be on one side of it, and you're gonna have people on one side and one people on the other side. It's gonna be so close that it's just gonna really depend on how or what lens you're viewing the fight from. And there's gonna be some outside factors. Like I said earlier, if you had action on a specific fighter, if you're a fan of a specific fighter, it's very hard to watch these fights and to really not have some emotional, emotional standpoint in the fight. Again, whether you're betting, even if you're not betting, just everyone relates to certain fighters a little bit more so, and everyone really is rooting for one fighter more than the other, especially when it comes to big time fights, big name fights. You're definitely going to gravitate towards one fighter more than the other. At least that's what I think. So also note that. All right. So let's also talk about the entire card here as a whole. Sam Hughes finishes Elise Reed. I hope none of you guys touched Elise Reed. Now, we talked about this fight being a fight was more value on the dog, if you guys remember what we talked about here. But I did edge Elise Reed to be slightly the better fighter, most likely to get the job done based on the fact she was a better striker, and we've seen her working on the takedown defense, but we saw her look a little bit more like the fighter who fought Sijara Eubanks there, getting taken down and beat up there. So Sam Hughes looked good there. Chase Hooper also gets the victory. Great to see Chase Hooper working on his overall game, working the ground and pound, and really did work against Felipe Coleres. Now, I did not pick both the first 2 fights correct, but now check this out. We go on a hot streak. We picked the entire rest of the card, including the underdog pick that's coming up in a second. Jonathan Martinez looked excellent. Jonathan Martinez is a fighter that's really going under the radar. He's a silky smooth striker, and I really enjoy him as an addition to the top of the bantamweight division as he continues to move forward. Vince Morales, tough kid, but you guys know I've been hard on him at times. Uros Medic gets the knockout here. You guys know I was on Uros as an underdog pick here. Did not put official action on him though. I didn't feel comfortable relying on him, to that extent. But I did feel that there was a good chance he would win the fight, and yeah, I felt a little bit more comfortable to pick him there. We had to throw a dog at you guys. Uros Medic was a solid dog to pick, I believed. Omar Morales, a very talented striker, but Medic showed once again, when he wins his fights, he gets the finish. He's a finisher, and still he has a lot of room for improvement, but keep an eye on Medic. Whereas Omar Morales is up there in age, so I don't really know where Medic's career, where Morales' career will go down the line. How about Gelton Almeida? Just dominating Parker Porter up in the heavyweight division. He's a true exciting addition to the UFC. Whether we're going to be seeing him fight in the light heavyweight division or the heavyweight division, he showed that he's going to be a true challenger to anybody in both divisions. There's no question about it. Parker Porter was the much larger man. The way he went in there, ripped him down to the mat, landing some heavy ground and pound shots, and then getting the choke. It's funny. I tagged him in my official plays that I post on Instagram every Saturday morning, and he was really, really cool. He was the only fighter this past weekend that shot me a message. He shot me the rocket ship and said in Portuguese, "We are one." So that was cool to see that he's reaching out to the fans and whatnot and showing love. That made me want to root for him even more so. Joseph Holmes hurts Alan Amadovsky really bad on the feet and then got that rear naked choke. It was good to see him get that victory there. Alan Amadovsky, a tough dude, but not a UFC caliber fighter. That will be the last we see of him in the octagon, in my opinion. Had the long layoff. That's 3 losses in a row in the octagon. Sayonara Amadovsky. Jun Young Park. Speaking of controversial decisions, I thought Jun Young Park won this fight. I know some of you guys were saying Anders won. Anders was a little bit more aggressive, similarly to Holly Holm, using the clinch and whatnot going forward. But I really thought that Jun Young Park was just landing nice, clean straights, 1-2s and whatnot. And although, yes, Ketlen Vieira did land those big shots, in my opinion, it wasn't as much so as what Jun Young Park was doing. And Eric Anders' strikes just weren't as sufficient to me as what Holly Holm was doing. I don't know. It was a close fight, but to me, I felt a little bit more comfortable saying Jun Young Park won that fight. I was a little surprised to see it go to split. I know some of you guys will disagree with me, but it was somewhat of a close fight, but I thought Jun Young Park was in control of that fight. Tabitha Ricci defeats Polyana Viana. Polyana Viana, you better get some victories moving forward, because you got to hang around inside the octagon, because I got to continue to watch you fight. I always enjoy it. All right. So obviously, you guys know I was on Tabitha Ricci here. Polyana Viana's takedown defense is horrid. Hopefully, none of you guys touched her there. And in retrospect, I regretted not making that an official play, because I know Tabitha Ricci. I knew that Tabitha Ricci is very polished down on the mat, and she should have been able to avoid those submission attempts from Polyana Viana, which is really one of her strengths. And then on the feet, I felt more comfortable with her too. Polyana Viana stands very upright. She needs to work on some things there. I wasn't too worried about the size advantage. I should have made Tabitha Ricci an official play, and I hesitated on that. It is what it is. We learned from that. But we're going to get to some official plays here in a second. Chidi and Njokuani takes out Dusko Todorovic. I was all over this. I had 2 official plays on this fight. I had Chidi straight up to win on the money line that I got at minus 195. I threw 5 units on that, grabbed it earlier in the week, and then we also took him inside the distance at plus 105, 2 units. In retrospect, I could have got a little bit more frisky, and I could have took him but by way of knockout, being the fact that it was more likely to happen like that. But you never know. Sometimes I tend to steer away those types of plays, because sometimes fighters hurt their opponent even when they're more of a striker, and they're just given a rear naked choke or some type of submission. So you got to be careful with those. I like to keep it at the inside the distance type plays and not get too aggressive when you're only going to get a little bit better of a line, not much of a better line. So I stood with the inside the distance. Major units came in on that play, and I was going crazy. Of course, Dusko was hanging all over Chidi, but Chidi has been improving his takedown defense and whatnot. You saw him working that beautifully, kept getting back up to the feet, landed the big shot, landed a beautiful elbow. Michel Pereira, this is my second play here. We had a 4-unit play on Michel Pereira. Grabbed them at pick'em odds, -120. All right, felt very good about this going in. The fight did play out a little bit closer than I thought it may have, and especially after the first round, it felt very comfortable. There was a couple moments in time where Pereira was slowing down a bit, and we know that Santiago Ponzinibbio is just an absolute dog. He has proven that time and time again, and he will come back strong. And we may have an official play on him moving forward because, again, proving just to dig very, very deep in his fights. We saw him dig very deep in the Miguel Baeza fight, taking that fight. And he's a stud. He's up there in age a little bit, 35 or whatnot, but he has a lot more to put out inside the octagon. I truly believe that. So you keep an eye on Ponzinibbio there. And then you get to the main event, which I've already spoke about. So nothing really more to say in regards to the main event. Again, I told you guys how I felt about it. And again, I did think that Holly Holm, I did think at the time Holly Holm was going to get the decision. I feel for you guys that had those official plays on her there. But you know what, man? I've learned from experience. You gotta accept it. Take it for what it is. Make sure you crunch some fight tape and make the game pay hard on the upcoming fight card. Get your money back in that aspect. Find a spot that you're very comfortable on. Don't dwell on that too much, and don't get out of whack with your decision making. Don't start chasing your losses from that fight card. Remember that, guys. Do not start chasing the losses from that play. Don't let that carry right over to the beginning of the Rosenstruck versus Volkov fight card. All right, guys. So that's my thoughts upon UFC Vegas 55 as a whole. What'd you guys think? Comment below. Who did you guys have in the main event? I'm very curious to see who you guys had there. Also, before we part ways, of course, guys, remember, the channel is going to be picking up in a major way very soon. I know the lighting is not that good here. All my equipment's going to be getting refined very soon. I told you guys we're going to have the entire studio. It's all in the process. Just stick with me, guys. I hope I'm not boring you guys by keep telling you that, but I don't want you guys thinking that this is the final product, because this ain't it. Right now I'm just sitting with the bare wall behind me, and it's just, I want to get this content out to you guys. All right, guys. So again, almost 9 units profited on UFC Vegas 55. Feel very good about that. I got a lot of money to work with, a lot of units to work with for the upcoming fight card. Not this upcoming Saturday, but the following. We're going to kill it on that fight card. I already see some spots that I'm eyeing. So if you guys want to work with me, do not be shy to reach out. You guys know all my contact information is below. And I appreciate every single one of you guys, all right? So on that note, signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.